Hello everyone, welcome to what's going to be a new campaign in Shadow Empire, which is in the 4X / Grand Strategy game that I would uh, roughly call a Mad Max Grand Strategy, which is a bit of a simplification, uh, but you'll see what I mean. It's a bit more than that in general. But yeah, it is an India Grand Strategy, which means it's going to come with pros and cons. It has a lot of depth, a lot of stuff going for it, but also is a bit of a mess in some other ways. So I will be explaining things as I go, as with Shadows of Forbidden Gods, so let's just get into it. So first of all, we're going to generate our planet. Basically the lore, the background is there was a intergalactic republic of humans that collapsed, and now every planet is for itself. There's been many nuclear wars all over the places. So we get to choose what kind of planet we're going to play on. You can fully randomize it, and usually when I play, I do this. But for this time, I think we'll just pick something. There's actually quite a bit of choice. Yeah, all of those types. There's a DLC that added water planets. But I think we'll just go for the most basic desert planet there can be, which means there's going to be unlikely we'll find an alien life. That's for the beginning, it's going to be fine. Here are some options you can choose to push the random generation one way or the other, but I think we'll just play without it, at least for the first campaign. There are some more generation settings. I will play on regular difficulty level because I haven't played in like a year or two, so I have forgotten quite a few things. There's a lot of options, including PPEM, which for the youngsters means play by email multiplayer. That was a thing we did way back when. But yeah, let's go into planet generation, and as you can see, it's quite detailed, and actually a lot of those things, well, maybe not a lot, but there are things that matter more than you'd think. So for the time being, the planets are generally going to be rather small, but this is smallish small. I'd like ideally something slightly bigger, maybe 0.35, 36G, a good amount of heavy elements, pretty high temperature, but 37 is pretty livable, I think. We're not going to be having crops anyway, so shouldn't matter that much. That seems fine. We are pretty close to the star, even though it's orange-yellow. I'm not sure what the most optimal thing is, but of course I think it matters for solar power generation. I think it should be fine. Okay, so here we have this. I like that we don't have that many mountains. It's going to be plains, obviously no oceans, because it's planet has been geologically dead for 426 million years. That I don't like. But I think it's not part of this step of generation, actually. So this is not my favorite, because that means we will have no access to volcanoes, which can be a really good source of energy, but that might be an interesting challenge, actually. So maybe it's not too bad. We have different temperatures, of course. The temperatures are different for the region of the planet you're in. But other than the tropic, the Arctic and Antarctic are actually pretty decent for temperature. Biosphere, obviously there's no oxygen because there's no plants. So atmosphere is not really that great, but air pressure is present, which is actually pretty important because that means the planes will be able to fly, because without atmosphere you are left with basically flying rockets all over the place, which is not the worst, but of course airships, well, planes are actually kind of difficult to make work in my experience. Let's try to see what else can I get. There's usually, like with this setup, there's not much variation that can happen. There is a low value of alien tissue nutrition, which is interesting considering there's no alien life forms. So heavy metals, oh, that's fine, I think. So this is colonization. We are going to... this planet used to be the mining ministry of the sector. All of this is going to have some effect on the map, though usually the effect is pretty minimal. 32 million is it's about average for a desert planet. Usually desert planets are not going to have massive populations anyways. And of course this population went down quite a bit during the apocalypse. The important thing here is how many nuclear exchanges there were. Fighting, nuked, Sotero, mega mines detonated. There was no actual nuclear war on this planet as far as I can see. Which is pretty important. It's going to have, the game is starting 275 years after the collapse of the civilization. So yeah, things have changed quite a bit over the time. But there shouldn't be that much radiation, because there wasn't actual nuclear war on the planet. There can be like an event where there was no nuclear war, but a fleet showed up and nuked your planet from orbit, and all of that can be causing issues. So it's going to be very desert. The planet is going to be pretty basic, but the game is going to be enough stuff that I think is going to keep us quite occupied for quite a long time. I'm not sure if I will be finishing this campaign, simply because there can be some issues, especially with turn times later on. I've noticed when I tested the game, I saw that it actually went way faster than before, so maybe it's no longer as bad. The game is still being actively developed. There's been like 2 or 3 big patches that I haven't played with, and apparently like there's 2 more DLCs planned. It's all, of course, all made by one guy. So yeah, here we can choose our starting nation. Everything is called a regime. It's actually showing me a Windows window when I click this. So you guys probably can't even see this. Yeah, no, you can't. It's actually a separate Windows window. So we're going to be called Chief General King, the leader of our faction. And Lutheran Empire. We're going to be Neobyzantine Empire, let's say. And we're going to be, at least at the start, a very basic raider society. So we're going to be focused on... Well, as a Neobyzantine, it would be nice if we're slightly purple. Actually, purple is going to be fine. I want to have a purple or blue color because it's going to look nicely in contrast with deserts. But I think this is going to be fine. And this looks like vaguely gladiator style helmet, so kind of Rome, gladiators, Byzantium, kind of works, I guess. And you can see the beautiful art of the game, by the way. That's something you guys will have to live with. So, the great cities were destroyed in the Dissolution War, the remainders of humanity dispersed into the wastelands. Hiding, scavenging, fighting, trying to scrape out a living, trying to survive, the forefathers of our empire were among them. The starvation and structural lack of foodstuffs was the biggest enemy. There was less food than people to feed. How did the ancestors manage to avoid chaos and anarchy in their community? So here we are basically deciding the beginning profile of our empire. And I'm going to get into a bit more details about it later when it's easier to present. But for the time being, we're going to be... So this thing, basically there's 3 different values. They're described by 3 different attributes, let's say. So this is basically how we manage our economy. We have commerce, which is private sector, government, which is public sector, and enforcement, which is kind of vague in what it means, but it kind of translates into taxes. Which, and I think that's where we're going to go for. And by the way, yes, there is private and public sectors in this game, private and public economies. Upon stability returned, there were those who did better than others, who were the people that grew richer and more powerful than the masses. And this is basically the value that describes, I think it describes how we fight. So it's fist, basically just raw power, mind using technology, and heart, which is basically like morale, going for morale and propaganda. And we're going to go for fist. By the way, I don't necessarily think this is the best way to go. Usually I play with mind because, well, tech is always good in 4X games. But let's go for fist so it fits the theme a bit more. At around the time your father was born, a rebellion took place against the leaders and the principles of our empire. It was a rebellion against authoritarian and dictatorial leader, corruption and the lack of progress, softness and indecision of the leaders. So this is how the nation is ruled. And obviously we're going to go for autocracy, because what else? And yeah, it's only 10 minutes that we are actually starting to play, kind of. So just by saying 64 reports, this is this kind of game. We actually don't need to look at those reports, but we're going to get a ton of data. The previous Chief General King is now buried, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. It is now up to us to lead the Empire to victory. Some subjects cheer your ascension, but not all. Great. New Zeitgeist. So there are like eras in the game, which means that for a couple of turns there's going to be certain effect applied to you. So for the next 12 turns, the effect of this era is going to be increasing. We're going to be gaining ward, which is basically how much our citizens are going to believe us when we say something. We are getting our first stratagems, which is basically a card, because this is also a card game, by the way. I really like actually those mechanics. I think they're done quite well, though can be frustrating sometimes, as always with card games. But you'll see how it works. It's actually quite complicated, and it's not really a card game. Let's just put it this way. We got Ascent Spy, and we got, I think, 2 religions I saw there. The UI, I made it slightly larger, so you guys can see numbers a bit better, but even then I don't think it's perfect. Actually, let me check, is it actually working this way? Yeah, I made the UI slightly bigger. AI speed is, let's set it for very slow, so we'll give AI a ton of time, and we'll see how it goes. If the turn times are too long, I will cut AI time to think, basically. But yeah, this is the game. Riveting graphics, obviously. But we will be getting into things. I think what I will need to set up, which I think you should always do when you start a game, is show operational logistics. This is going to be really important in a second, but not for now. Let's get into those decisions we have. So Ascension Speech. We are going to continue going for Fist. We're going to be hard and merciless. I'm not going to be reading every event because there's a ton of stuff, basically.
Roger that.
Get used to those, roger that, and so on. We're going to be saying that a lot. Now, organizations. Because in this game, your government is actually a government. There's a lot of stuff going for it. We even have our secretary, as you can see. We can call them. And every character in this game has a lot of stats. And most of those actually do something. So even stuff like personal combat can be fairly meaningful in avoiding assassinations, or for generals to avoid dying on the front lines. A lot of the stuff actually matters, but not all. Some of this is just for like role-playing purposes. And we're going to start and set up a military research council, because research is great. And we have protest in Hawking, which is our first city, which I think we're going to rename in a second. We're going to pay 2 PP, which obviously stands for power political points. Sorry, of course, what I was thinking. It's obviously political points. So, yeah, having a big PP is very, very important in this game, as usual. So we immediately start with protests and the zone. Okay, so it looks like we have significant population here in Hawking. So upgrading to big town, it would be kind of nice, but it costs a lot of points. So I could actually ask my governor to check and see if we can try to do it again later. So here are protests, and these events happen quite a lot when people are unhappy. This makes going for autocracy or democracy fairly easy, Autocracy obviously easier because you're not really paying that much money, but meritocracy can be fairly difficult because you actually have to make a roll, though as you can see, this actually wouldn't be that difficult. But let's continue going for autocracy. We gained a lot of fear, we lost 100 troops and killed 500 protesters, so that's not ideal, but also not the end of the world. Here we are gaining a training opportunity, so there's of course a lot of mechanics regarding the troops. We can be adding some kind of additional like officers or assets to our units, and here we can be gaining mind or enforcement. It's actually quite big numbers, and here you can see the three values. They're called profiles, I think, and they are distributed into attributes, and as you can see, gaining in one of those attributes is going to be decreasing something else, and they work in triangles over here. So if we gained mind, we'll be lowering heart but not fist. So gaining mind is not going to affect us increasing our fist, while enforcement... Actually, wait, we are going for enforcement, so let's get a veteran sergeant. And he's going to appear, yeah, right here in this militia squadron, battalion. We start with a bunch of militia battalions. They are basically troops that are forming themselves as long as our people have enough militia value. They are usually not really that useful, but at the start you need anything you can get. We are kind of lucky in that we are starting with on the southern pole, basically. If we look at the strategic map, or the minimap actually, I think that's the best way to show it. Obviously, it's the planet, so it goes round. And that means we have a secure back, which is going to be very important because, as you can see, this is our domain. And out here, there's no one. Actually, there is a minor regime, but it's not really an established border. We don't really know anything about them. So let's explore a bit at the start. I'm just going to send my bit more mobile battalions on the road. See how far they can get. There's something else over here. Not that much going right next to our capital, unfortunately. We are finding some more free folk, just people that are unorganized into any real political organization. We have something that will give us a bit more research bonus, which is nice, but not really crucial, especially not right now, because we are not researching anything anyways. And we actually have someone here. Oh, this is an actual city. It might be a... So every AI nation is split into minor and major regimes. And major regimes work basically like the player nation, and minors very, very much depending on what kind of culture they are. And this looks like raiders, which is in a way actually kind of lucky, because if we manage to grab a second city right away, that would be really nice. A really good boost to our economy and basically everything. And yeah, I remember back when I was playing this quite a bit, I had a whole build for the start, but I forgot all about it. So I will be just trying to play it as well as I can, scouting a bit more in the area, making sure, because other than regimes, there are just free people walking around on the deserts, and those people can be encroaching on your territory as well, so we need to be careful about that. And also, if you don't have any troops on your capital, people can just walk on top of it and destroy your nation, so we need to be careful about that as well. We do have a card that is Send Spy, so we're going to take this and send it to this domain over here. We are kind of lucky that we are bordering only one. Let's make this roll, and we managed to successfully send a spy, which should increase our knowledge of this area quite significantly. And yeah, actually, one more thing. I might call my secretary and change salaries, because I want to lower the salaries. That's the salaries of the generals and advisors. This is a bit unfortunate, not exactly what I wanted to do. So I wouldn't mind lowering the salaries of the advisor, because 4 credits is actually... I think it's going to be fine. So of course an advisor is slightly pissed, but what can you do? What I actually wanted to do is call the governor over here.
Aye, aye, sir.
And change the sign-up bonus for recruits. Because basically the way it works, we have our population here. From this population, we are recruiting workers to the public sector, and we are recruiting, well, recruits, and also colonists, but colonists are a bit of a different mechanic. And yeah, actually our population started growing instantly quite fast. We gained 4,500 free folk instantly. Doesn't really happen that much. And we lost 500 population as recruits, but that's just moving them from here to over here. That's not actually losing people. And might as well change the name. You guys cannot see this window again. And it's of course going to be... It's Neo-Byzantine Empire, so even though Constantinople might have been more correct, I think calling it Byzantium is a bit more in the vibe of people not really knowing what they're talking about, not really knowing their history. And we can allow emergency food, might as well. Every zone is producing their own food, but if they run out, we can deliver it from the strategic headquarters supply. This is a whole thing. I will get to it probably one day, maybe. We shall see. But yeah, let's end the turn, see how fast it goes. Okay, we can see there's some movement from those other guys. It was relatively fast, not too bad. We found a bunch of money. That's really nice. Oh yeah, I need to look into what religions we got. Okay. This is quite a big zone. There's some ruins over here, there's more ruins over here, so it's Confeds. What kind of culture is that? Let me see. I think they're more like farmers, but we're still going to invade them, because that's our way. Basically, those guys can continue exploring along the road, because of course their trucks are faster on the roads. Grabbing some more free folk settlements, that's always nice. Exploring a bit more, securing our capital, and you can see that the green changes slowly into yellow. That means that the logistics, our units are slowly running out of logistics in this area. Where to look at stuff like this, for example. Yeah, so logistic travels along the roads. This is going to be important. So the green goes much further over here than it goes over here. Obviously. For now it's not really that important. We can easily manage our logistics this close to home. And actually, yeah, it's another good thing about those guys being so close. They really don't have much other than a farm and a transport hub. But they're so close that it's not going to be a problem to manage our logistics, though actually they start with slightly bigger population, but they're minor regimes, so usually minor regimes are pushovers. There is a slight problem in that we start with basically the same technology, so we will have to manage this somehow. Oh yeah, before I get to anything else, let's see, what factions do we have? Because of course characters in the game form factions. So we have Elite Circle, that has a commander of our... Basically this is leader of our military, commander of the strategic HQ, and the advisor. And they are pro-commerce and autocracy, which basically means when we take decisions that increase those two value, or decrease them, they're going to react with their relations. They lack autocracy, so they're actually not too bad. This is one of the things we are going for. And those guys are meritocracy and hard. Right, so this is directly both of those we don't want, especially hard because it's going to actively be reducing our fist values. So yeah, we get the director of Supreme Command Council, which is basically the prime minister, and the reserve pool member. I need to make sure not to do too much to Justice Humanist Knights. Yeah, we're not going to be supporting those guys as much as possible, basically. This is going to be the plan. And now let's check their religions. If only I remember. I think, okay, so there are two. No, that's fear and danger. So danger, you can see it started a bit higher, but it's diminishing now. It's because we had the unexplored areas around our capital. But now that we are exploring a little bit, people are feeling a bit safer. So we have Eternity Movement. I'm not sure if you guys can read this at all. It's really tiny. Let me know if you want me to increase the UI even more, but that might look a bit cursed. If I even try. Let me know what you guys prefer. Because, I mean, that's not too bad, actually. Maybe I try playing like this? For them, it looks a bit stretched, but maybe I'm just used to the other type. Let me know what you guys think. I will also check how it actually looks on YouTube and maybe decide based on that. So those guys are meditating, so they are increasing our loyalty and public production penalty. Okay, so they are basically increasing loyalty but lowering production, which is not too bad. But it's not ideal religion. We don't really want to spread it among our population. We'll see what those guys I believe in might be a bit more useful. And I think we'll start by forming our first formation, assuming we have enough resources for that. There's a lot of possibilities to raising stuff. You can raise entire armies with like 62,000 soldiers in them. And we are kind of far away from that, so let's just form a small little brigade. We're not even going to be able to man fully, but at least for the most part. Actually, we don't have that much industry. No, we don't have enough industry to even raise this formation. So when it comes to resources, there's food, water. Water, sometimes it's really nice how the water mechanics work in that on this planet, water is going to be super important. You can see we start with some water underground over here, but this is not going to last forever, so we will really need to worry about getting enough food from some source at some point. There's no ice on the South Cap, unfortunately. Sometimes this is the way you can get with a good amount of water, but not here. It's not cold enough. Then we have fuel, basically oil. We are getting a bit of the stuff because we have a scavenging community over here, which is basically private organization that's gathering scavenging stuff. We will be able to build one more over here as well. There's ammunition. We need to keep an eye on that. There's metals, industrial points, which is abstracted stuff made to produce things, energy, radioactives, recruits, colonists, rare metals, machines, and high-tech parts. And all of that stuff, before you can even produce them, you can just trade for them. And this actually does matter, like there's a lot of private trade going on in the background that you can look into, I think. There's like trade report. Yeah, you can see that private trading is ongoing all the time. We are mostly exporting food to the traders. You can trade also with other regimes, but those guys we are not really friendly. And we need more industrial points, I guess. Let's look into decisions. So there are satisfied elements in Lagala domain, which is... Their high leader seems to be bordering to the insane. And oh, and I thought we were the raiders. And it turns out they are insane. Oh, so we can promise to invade. And we will have to pay. And they're going to rebel, but this is going to increase democracy and heart, which is exactly what we don't need. But we can gain fist and government. Government is not great, but I think fist, especially in the beginning, is more important.
Roger that.
Let's go for this. So this is the budget of Military Research Council, which is basically how we're going to be managing what they're doing. No, this is actually national budget. this split is fine. Interestingly enough, when you lower a budget for a council, the chancellor is actually going to be pissed. So you need to manage that as well. This guy is from the faction we don't want. So right now we don't have anyone to appoint as director of the Military Research Council. So let's first check if I can just recruit a junior, and I can. I can also increase income tax, which actually might be worth doing, though the problem is the secretary is not good enough to do it reliably. Need to make a 70 roll and has a minus 20 effectively, so not great chance to do it. Let's get a junior. They're not part of any faction. They're not really good at anything, but this is very beginning. That's pretty much expected. So when it comes to tech, there's discovery and research. We don't have anything to research, so we're just going to focus on discovery, because the way tech works is you have this huge tech tree over here, and you need to basically first discover a tech, and only then you can start researching it. And I think if you get 3 techs in a box, you open next boxes and you go down and down and down. So there's part of the game where you are trying to minimize how many techs are open for you to discover, so you can get what you actually want. Right now, basically anything we can get from military is going to be good for us, so we're going to focus on that. Economy would be nice as well, like roads, that's pretty nice, power plants, solar energy. Though more important economy stuff is going to be coming later. Also, now that we're in this screen, might as well look into what we get from different values over here. So we get additional cards. It's not like we get cards when we reach those ones, but just become available. And also there are bonuses that for some reason don't really show up. So if we get, for example, Esprit de Corps, we will get flat plus 25% combat bonus, which can be kind of nice, but I think, yeah, research bonus plus 40 in mind. I think it's hard to discuss that mind might be one of the strongest options, but Fist is decent second. Hard, I think, is a bit less focused on the military. It has some side bonuses to loyalty of leaders and people, which is not necessarily the worst. Yeah, this is how many unit types are going to be in game, and actually you get to design a lot of those, especially aircraft. There's out of fiddling with aircraft creation. Now our traders offer ammunition, so they want to sell us ammo for 270 credits. We actually have a fair amount of money. But this is leader of some kind of territory that we don't even have access to right now. Or is it? Oh, we're just bordering over here. There's no real reason to spend our money. We have plenty of ammunition for the time being. You lose ammunition very fast when you're actually fighting, but for now it's fine. Yeah, those guys are going to stay here and block the road. Ideally I would move some more troops over there. But yeah, not enough industry, so let's wait another turn. And you can see they cut off this road. We got one ward, that's nice. We found some intact Galactic Republic equipment, which I think this is tanks. Yes, we just found tanks, which is going to be pretty huge. Those units you cannot really build yourself. Yeah, this starts with light plasma blast, 50mm polymer plating, and is supported by nuclear engine, which means it basically is not going to run out of energy ever. It only needs food, and that's it actually, because the plasma blast gun is using energy as well. So it needs very little supplies. Though it is just 10 tanks, so effectively it's not that much. Yeah, I think we need to withdraw and contain those guys. Let's try to raise formation now. I seem to be getting not that much industrial points. I think next turn maybe I will be able to raise this formation. I won't raise the entirety of it. 500, that's quite a bit. And we cannot really start producing more because we need more troops first, basically, is what I think. Don't like leaving myself open on this side, but yeah, there's basically just going to be the wild people coming in, the free folks, and they're the least threat out of everything else. Do have some strategic points. Do I have more spies? I can get the guru on my biggest battalion over here. Why not? Because it's free anyways. Oh yeah, the green cards, by the way, they use so-called fate points. You get them every like 20 or 30 turns, but you can also use the red cards, which give you a penalty of some kind, but you gain fate points. So this is like a kind of cool mechanic of hurting yourself in one way to gain in some other way. Let's actually just keep going. And see, okay, they're withdrawing. We are containing them. They're not trying to really push into us. We are not officially in a war. There's basically no contacts yet. So you would usually use this card to kind of set up some kind of border with those guys. But we're not really interested in doing something like that. Oh, this might be refugee camp. So this just gives you flat 200 population per turn, which is really valuable when you consider that, well, of course, population is growing much more because we're gaining free folk, but natural growth of this population is 200. So basically just with this, we're going to double our natural growth of population, which is going to be really important as our soldiers will begin to die. Bear in mind, every unit is 100 people. So with people dying, actually we could try to cut them off over here. No, not enough movement. The sand dunes are not the best terrain for trucks, as you might imagine. Can I get this? Okay, now barely I can get this light infantry brigade. And they don't really have that many grunts. We'll have to replenish troops as the time goes on. But this is definitely doable. Yeah, we are... If we get this city really early, that's going to set up us really good for the rest of the game. But there's no easy access to anything else except for this one road that I'm not even sure if it goes anywhere. Seems like maybe there's yeah, a different city maybe right over here. It would be pretty lucky. It would be a pretty good start if we just start right next to two AI cities. Sometimes you can just be on your own, totally in the middle of nowhere. But I think it's going to be it for this session. Let me know if there are any technical issues, if you guys want a slightly bigger UI, because that can be arranged. Also, maybe I will make music a bit louder. Feels like there is music in this game, but it's very ambient. Maybe I will try to set up something on my own. So yeah, GG, and see you guys in the next one.